Quote number 1. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Now this has become quite an overused and cliched quote in the personal development field, and I thought long and hard about coming up with an alternative. But if you can, like me, get over the corniness, if that's a word, of the quote and look at the deeper meaning, it will reveal some important points about rapport building. A key word to notice is the word until. The quote doesn't read, "People don't care how much you know," full stop. I meet many youth workers, teachers and parents that have the unconscious belief that young people just don't care. Now that's not true in my world, and it doesn't match my experience. The truth for me is that young people don't care until they know, discover and appreciate how much you care. How much you care about them, their interests, their concerns, their culture and their worldview. So an important lesson to take forward is that the first step in building rapport is to demonstrate that you care. Failing to communicate this first is one of the biggest mistakes youth workers, teachers and parents make when communicating. Jumping in with requests, commands and important information is very commonplace and a surefire recipe for disaster. Look, I'm going to be honest with you. The same thing used to happen to me when I first started in youth work. I would see a group of young people and go over and introduce myself. I would say something like, "Hi, I'm Bob, what's your name?" And the young people would just look at me with kind of blank faces. Or I would start a workshop by saying, "Hello everyone, how are you?" "I can't hear you." And they would just sit there. Now, I mean, it's painful even just remembering it now. But at the time, the strategy sounded pretty good to me. I was following everything they taught in youth work training. I wasn't being too pushy, I was being friendly and very open. But looking through the lens of this quote, you can quickly see where I was going wrong. They didn't care what my name was, they didn't care who I was, what I wanted, or what I had to offer. None of this was relevant until they knew that I cared about them, their stuff, their world, their hopes and dreams. So what I started to do quite naturally and instinctively by learning from what worked and what didn't is to first demonstrate that I cared. I needed to show that I was interested in their world. This involved holding back my stuff, the stuff I knew, the stuff I wanted to talk about, the project that I wanted to promote, and totally focusing on their world, their needs and their wants. I would get really interested in what was going on for them in that moment, and I would try to guess what they needed or wanted. If it was cold, I would offer to make a cup of tea. If they were wearing a football shirt, I'd ask them the latest score. If they had new trainers on, I'd ask them where they got them from. Or if the last speaker was very boring and they were looking out the window, I would talk about what was outside the window. I'd be interested in what they were interested in. I would genuinely attempt to meet them in their world. I know that this may sound basic, but remember the thin wire metaphor. Used alone, making a cup of tea or asking the latest football score doesn't necessarily build a high level of rapport, but used together with other strategies, compounding the benefit, I was able to build trust, credibility and respect. You're going to learn some advanced ways to demonstrate that you care. But what I want you to take away from this quote is that rapport building has a syntax, a sequence. First, you must demonstrate that you care. Then, and only then, will young people care about what you know, who you are, what you have to say, and what you have to offer in terms of support. This quote teaches us the importance of rapport in youth work. Without it, young people don't and won't care. Masters in youth work know for a fact that it doesn't matter how good your center, your project, your mentoring, your coaching or advice is. Without rapport, young people won't and don't care.